I pulled into the driveway, but before I could get out of the car and go to the door, she was out. As I watched her walk to the car, I thought, not for the first time, how young, fresh, beautiful, and innocent she looked. She opened the car door and slid into the seat next to me, giving me a wide, beautiful smile. "Let's go. You don't want to be late," she said as I backed up and backed out of her driveway. As I walked back to my apartment, I pondered the chain of events that led to Anne ending up in the seat next to me. My wife Brenda was called away due to illness in the family. She had only planned to leave for 3 or 4 days, but 2 weeks have passed and she still hasn't returned. This created a bit of a problem for me. The monthly poker game at my house was scheduled to take place before Brenda returned. This meant that I wouldn't have anyone to play hostess, which in turn meant that I wouldn't be able to play much because I would have to keep track of the snacks and generally be a good host. I complained to Herb about this when he said he might have a solution to my problem. He was going back to Michigan to sort out some legal issues related to his father's estate, but Anne was going to stay home. He said that she would probably be happy to act as a hostess for me, just so she would have something to do. He mentioned it to her and she called me and said she would love to do it. By 7 a.m., we had all the food ready, beer on ice, chips and dip. By 7:30, all players had arrived. They were introduced to Anne and warned to be on their best behavior. I didn't want to give her husband any explanation. By 8 o'clock, the game was in full swing, and I was looking forward to a good evening, having won 3 of the first 7 hands. The bets were quarter, half, and dollar. The limit is 3 raises, and the dealer calls the game. I wasn't going to get rich, but it wasn't about the money anyway. It was about who would have bragging rights at work next week. By 10 o'clock, I was comfortably ahead and in that mood that good poker players learn to recognize and control when you feel like your luck is on your side and you want to bet on everything. I was paying very close attention to my game, so I didn't notice that Anne had drunk quite a bit and was already pretty tipsy. But the other guys noticed. By the time I found out what was happening, it was already too late. I didn't pay any attention to the comings and goings of the other guys because it was common practice at our games for the guys to get up, go do some exercise, and then come back, sit out a few hands, and play again. It wasn't until about 11 o'clock that I got up to go to the toilet, and as I walked past the bedroom door, I thought I heard some quiet moaning, so naturally I looked inside. Anne was naked, lying on her back, staring at the ceiling, and Mark was, everyone's strength had sex with her. My first thought was, God, Herb is going to be mad when he finds out, followed by, damn. It's all my fault. I should have been more careful and done everything necessary to prevent this from happening. I should have known this would happen because that's what happened when Brenda played the hostess. In fact, that's why Brenda played the hostess. She loved to study sex with guys, and she took great pleasure in sending all the guys home with their tails between their legs. I didn't warn the guys that Anne wouldn't replace Brenda in everything, but then, why should I? I had no idea that Anne would allow this to happen. Well, now it was too late to do anything about it, so I walked further down the corridor to the toilet. On the way back, I looked into the bedroom again. Mark left, but Marv took his place. Anne turned and her eyes met mine, but they did not see me. They were full of lust. Of course, I started losing. I couldn't get the scene in my bedroom out of my head. The expression on Anne's face and her eyes. I couldn't concentrate on the cards, but instead I was acutely aware every time someone got up from the table and headed down the corridor. I have no idea how many people made this journey before I found out about what was happening, but I know for sure how many went after. Everyone at the table, except me, there were 7 of us, made this trip twice, three times, and Marv and Mark 4 times each. I finally gave in and laid down my cards. I went to the kitchen, poured myself something stronger, went back to the table to watch the game, but my thoughts remained in that damn bedroom down the hall. I resisted as much as I could, but in the end, I found myself walking down the corridor. Inside the room, Anne was on her knees as Bud took her from behind. She shook her head from side to side and in a low, almost guttural voice screamed, "Yes, yes, yes, take me, oh God, please take me." And I stood there and watched as Bud did his best favor. Mike came in, and when he saw that I was just watching, he unzipped and walked over to Anne to satisfy him, and she went at it without hesitation. By 2 o'clock in the morning, all the guys were satisfied and left, leaving only Anne and me. Anne was lying on the bed. I stood and watched. She looked at me pleadingly. "Please, I need it. Take me, please." I'm not made of stone, although at that moment I felt that way, so, throwing off my clothes on the floor, I walked up to her. In the morning, I woke up from the soft touch of warm lips on my body. I shook the sleep from my eyes and saw Anne's head lower and lower, sliding over my body, and then touching my manhood began to caress it. Later, at breakfast, Anne said, "I didn't want it to happen, but once it started, I couldn't stop. I want to do this again. Can I come to the next game?" I was at a loss, unable to find words. How was I going to explain this to Brenda? How were we going to hide this from Herb? Annie took my silence as a refusal. "Please, please let me come to the next game. Please, Daddy, please."